Charlie Kirk was only 31 when he was murdered. He was one of the most influential conservative voices of his time. In Erica Kirk's touching tribute to her husband last night, she acknowledged the people who helped get his voice out to millions.
I want to thank the staffers of his amazing Charlie Kirk show, who helped him broadcast from this studio, this chair.
Andrew Kolvet, executive producer of the Charlie Kirk Show, was a central part of that program. And he joins us this morning from Phoenix. Andrew, my condolences on the passing of your close associate and friend. It was horrific. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. It tells us a lot about Charlie Kirk and his ideas of engagement. Will you expand on that mantra?
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Charlie was never afraid of intellectual combat. He was not. He was willing to go into any arena, debate with anybody, and discuss anything. And he loved it. He loved it. It energized him. He knew that those interactions were what people were hungry for. They didn't want the sanitized, in a box, censored, anything like that. It was raw. It was riveting. It was impossible to take your eyes away from. And he loved it. And he spent all of his waking moments learning and studying and trying to hone his skills, hone his ability to make his arguments more persuasively. And he was a student of history, a student of Western civilization. It was really remarkable. He loved to learn, and he loved to give those things he was learning away to the next generation.
And when he would tour college campuses, what would the typical event consist of? How was it structured? Yeah,
I mean, the crowds, I remember it was actually spring of 2024. He was at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. And you got to remember, we've been doing this for years, Turning Point USA. And it used to be that there was more protesters than there were supporters. And, you know, he'd have to sort of encourage people to come up to the table. And the crowd started growing slowly and then suddenly. And I remember at Cal Poly, there was about 1,000 or 1,500 students gathered in the quad to hear Charlie debate. And all of a sudden they started singing the national anthem, just organically. They did it themselves. And it was this beautiful moment. And we all paused to kind of take that moment in. And that was in the spring. It was before the fall run up to the election. And we paused to take that moment. And I looked at Charlie and I said, Charlie, something's happening. Something remarkable is happening on these college campuses. And it was at that point, he fully embraced the moment. He fully realized that there was something we had to seize and we had to pour into. And we doubled and tripled how many stops we did. And we did all of these quad events because oftentimes the campuses were really hostile to Charlie, and the administrations didn't want him on the campus. And so they would give us these tiny little rooms, and we'd have 3,000 people that couldn't get into the venue. And so we decided, let's start doing all these prove me wrongs out in the quad so everybody could come, the sea of kids could come. And, you know, Charlie put up a card table and a tent, and we'd have to bring more and more speakers in because the crowds kept growing and growing and growing. And they became these almost festival rock concert events. And he would come out, we'd drive him up. We'd always plan his route. He'd come up and the crowd would see him. There'd be a huge cheer. And he loved that. And that is one of the great comforts in all of this, I can tell you, is that he died doing what he loved. I was texting with him minutes before it happened. And we were talking about different concepts and different debate points about different topics. And he was focused on, you know, he wanted to be as persuasive as he could be. And that was he died doing what he loved. And it truly energized him. I want people that love Charlie to know that he loved it. He loved that moment. He was more energized doing campus stops than just about anything else. And there's some solace for me in that. And the crowd loved him. and the people loved him. And I think you're seeing that with all of these vigils. And I just want to say, I'm so proud of the people that love him and support him all around the world. And we're not burning things down. We're not rioting. They're praying. And I am so proud and honored by that testament to his character and his message.
Andrew, to that point, if it had happened to somebody else and Charlie were still among us, what do you think he'd be saying right now?
He would be condemning the violence and saying that we need to be using words, not violence, not guns. And, Charlie, some of the last messages that he sent to some of my mutual friends and was that we have to stop these groups that are fomenting violence, that's actually their core mission. I just know that Charlie would never want his legacy to be that this was used to rip apart the country or to tear us apart as a nation. He devoted his life and every measure of his life to restoring the promise of the founding that we could be one nation under God. And he wants that for his kids. He doesn't want his kids. He was not a revolutionary. He was an anti-revolutionary. He wanted to bring the nation together and to make a better nation for his kids.
Can I just offer this one observation? I have a hot mic in front of me for 16 hours a week. I know what it's like to say something stupid and regret it. I know that many are now parsing things that Charlie said over the course of his career. I've not seen anything suggestive of him embracing anything other than, there might be some combative language, but other than engagement and intellectual debate on the issues. You get the final word on that issue.
Yeah, Charlie had detractors. He had people that didn't like what he had to say, and that was never going to stop him. And that never should be the issue. Charlie was not, he was not afraid of, like I said, ideological combat and of debating the ideas vigorously. And he was passionate about them, and he believed in them deeply, and that should be okay. And you're free to disagree. And we won't find one single word that Charlie ever uttered that would have condoned or encouraged violence. He was exactly the opposite, as a matter of fact. And ultimately, his message and his legacy will be one of faith, love, calling people to get married, to love Jesus, and that's his legacy. And there's just no debate about that.
Andrew Kolvet, sorry for your loss. Sorry for the nation's loss.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Let's see what you're saying via social media. You can follow me on X and all of the usual platforms. I disagreed with much of Charlie Kirk's ideology, but he was the real deal. So much can be learned through rigorous debate. Yeah, and from a guy who, hey, I'm not going to go to college. I'm going to immerse myself. There's a funny story about the back and forth between he and David Urban, because Urban, of course, went to West Point. Charlie Kirk, wanted to go to West Point and then decided to pursue another path. And no one doubts his intellectual rigor. I didn't mean to cut off halfway through that statement. I want to remind all of you, please go to my website at Smerconish.com. So Governor Cox, Spencer Cox, has inspired today's poll question. These are his words from yesterday. Is this the end of a dark chapter in our history or the beginning of a darker chapter in our history? Go to Smerconish.com and vote on today's poll question. Still to come, your social media reaction to my commentary. Plus, imagine a series of blockbuster scripts that Hollywood never wrote. Prosecutors taking on presidents, rules changing mid-game, careers and constitutions on the line. Our very own Ellie Honig. A brand new book lifts that curtain on the drama inside the DOJ that shaped American history. He'll be here in a moment.